The old house stood on a forgotten lane, a skeletal sentinel against the bruised twilight sky. Its windows, like vacant eyes, stared out over a landscape that seemed to shrink from its very presence. People whispered about Blackwood Manor, tales of shadows that danced where no light fell, and of a silence so profound it seemed to swallow sound whole. But whispers are just that, whispers, until they become echoes in your own mind. My name is Elias Thorne, and I was foolish enough to believe I could conquer the quiet. A writer, perpetually chasing the elusive muse, I saw the manor not as a haunted relic, but as a sanctuary of inspiration, a place where the stillness would breed creativity, not dread. The real estate agent, a nervous man named Mr. Abernathy, practically shoved the keys into my hand. He mumbled something about good bones and a steal, avoiding my gaze as if the very air around the house was contagious. I dismissed his unease as typical realtor theatrics. The first few days were idyllic, a writer's dream. The air, crisp and carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, filled my lungs. The solitude was a balm. I set up my antique typewriter in the study, a room with tall arched windows that overlooked a wild, overgrown garden. The silence wasn't oppressive, it was freeing. I wrote for hours, the rhythmic clack of the keys the only sound, a comforting counterpoint to the chirping crickets outside. Then the whispers began. Not audible whispers, not at first. They were impressions, faint disturbances at the edge of my perception. A fleeting chill in a warm room, the sensation of being watched when I was utterly alone. I attributed it to the old house settling, the tricks of an overactive imagination, or perhaps the early stages of cabin fever. One evening I was working late, the moon casting long, spectral shadows across the study floor. A subtle scent wafted through the air, something earthy and sweet, like decaying flowers. I looked up, but the room was empty, the windows closed. I dismissed it. My mind was playing tricks. The next morning I found a single dried rose petal on my keyboard. It was crimson, almost black and brittle to the touch. I didn't own any roses. The garden was a tangle of thorns and weeds, devoid of any such bloom. My heart gave a strange lurch, but I reasoned a gust of wind must have carried it from somewhere, though the windows had been shut all night. Then came the footsteps. Light, rhythmic thumps that echoed from the floor above, where the bedrooms lay empty and undisturbed. I would pause my writing, my pen hovering above the page, listening intently. They would stop the moment I focused, leaving me in a deafening silence. I explored the upstairs, checking every room, every closet. Nothing, just dust motes dancing in the shafts of sunlight. I started to sleep with a bedside lamp on. The nightmares began shortly after. Vivid, grotesque visions of shadowy figures lurking in the periphery, of hands reaching out from darkness, their touch cold and suffocating. I would wake in a cold sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs, the silence of the manor now a mocking presence. I tried to rationalize it, to find a logical explanation. The stress of moving, the isolation, the dark subject matter of my novel, it was all contributing to my frayed nerves. I even considered leaving, but something held me back, a morbid curiosity, perhaps, or a desperate need to prove my own sanity. The occurrences escalated. Objects would move. A book I'd left on my desk would be on the bookshelf. My coffee cup, placed on the kitchen counter, would reappear in the living room. It was subtle, insidious, designed to erode my sense of reality. I started taking photographs of where I left things, a desperate attempt to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But the evidence was always inconclusive, easily explained away by a momentary lapse of memory. One particularly oppressive afternoon, a heavy fog rolled in, blanketing the manor in a thick, gray shroud. The air grew heavy, damp,
and the silence intensified, becoming a physical entity. I was in the library, attempting to read, but my eyes kept darting to the shadows that clung to the corners of the room. I heard a faint, melancholic melody, like a child's lullaby, drifting from somewhere within the house. It was faint, almost imperceptible, yet it resonated deep within my bones. I followed the sound, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. It led me to the attic, a forgotten space filled with cobwebs and decaying furniture. The air up there was thick with the scent of dust and something else, something sweet and cloying, like the dried rose petal. The melody grew clearer, a haunting, wordless tune. In the center of the attic, illuminated by a single grimy skylight, stood an old rocking chair. It swayed gently, as if recently occupied, and on its wooden armrest a single, black-crimson rose, fresh and vibrant despite the dust and decay that surrounded it. I stumbled back, a scream catching in my throat. This was no trick of the mind, no settling house. This was real. The house wasn't just old, it was alive, and it was playing with me. I fled the attic, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I locked the door, then locked the door to the study, then my bedroom. I barricaded myself, a pathetic attempt to keep out what was already inside. I tried to call for help, but my phone had no signal. The fog, it seemed, had severed my connection to the outside world. Days blurred into a terrifying haze. I barely ate, barely slept. Every creak, every groan of the old house sent shivers down my spine. The whispers intensified, becoming clearer, though still indistinct, a cacophony of sound that seemed to emanate from the very walls. I started seeing movement in my peripheral vision, flashes of shadow that would vanish the moment I turned my head. One night, I woke to a chilling realization. The rocking chair in the attic was moving again. The gentle creak, creak, creak echoed through the floorboards above my head, and with it, the lullaby. It was louder now, clearer, and infused with an unbearable sorrow. I knew with a terrifying certainty that I had to confront it. The fear was paralyzing, but the unknown was worse. I grabbed the heaviest object I could find, an antique brass lamp, and slowly, deliberately made my way up the creaking stairs. The attic door was ajar. A faint, ethereal glow emanated from within. I pushed it open, my heart hammering a drum solo against my ribs. The scene that greeted me was beyond anything I could have imagined. The rocking chair was indeed swaying, but it wasn't empty. A figure sat in it, small and indistinct, shrouded in a shimmering, translucent veil. The lullaby filled the air, a mournful melody that twisted my gut. As I stared, the veil seemed to thin, revealing glimpses of what lay beneath. Not a child, as I had initially thought, but something far older, far more unsettling. A face, gaunt and translucent, with eyes that held an ancient, profound sorrow. Its mouth, a delicate petal-like opening, was moving, forming the silent words of the lullaby. And then I saw the rose. It wasn't just on the armrest, it was woven into the figure's hair, blooming amidst the translucent strands, a vibrant, impossible crimson against the pallor of its form. A cold, dead hand reached out from beneath the veil, beckoning me closer. I wanted to run, to scream, but my feet were rooted to the spot. A voice, not with my ears, but directly into my mind, whispered, "You came for inspiration, didn't you, Elias? To chase the silence. I am the silence. I am the story." And as the figure moved, the veil shifted, and for a fleeting moment I saw it. The entire body, gaunt and skeletal, yet somehow delicate. And then I saw the true horror. Where its heart should have been, nestled within its translucent chest, was a blooming black-crimson rose. Its roots seemed to spread, like veins, throughout its ethereal form. The undead hand reached out again, closer this time, and I felt a strange compulsion, an undeniable pull, to touch it, to finally understand. But just as my hand trembled, reaching for its